And she tolerated the whole time our night and day operations in the house with 5 people all sprawled all over the place 24/7. And at the time with 2 babies to boot. And Dick, at this point, I had children. And now the idea of a thought journal wasn't about remote other children. It was actually about my own children's future. And I became really possessed with the pursuit of fixing the internet. And, you know, they say behind every great inventor and idea, there's a woman, and I have to agree with that. And finally, another inspiration goes to my children who do drive me to make these dreams come true, to defend their futures. My oldest, Joshua Ennio Xander, my middle, Jacob Noah Archie, and my youngest, Daniel Elijah A.B. Adamo. They provide the passion to continue my pursuit every day, night and day, to make the thought journal possible and, you know, make it a part of their future, and hopefully it'll solve some of the problems facing their future. In fact, Dick, my first attempt in '97 to actually do a video conference over what little internet there was driven by my newborn son, Josh, and took place at basically the dawn of the internet prior to any standardized video or video conference systems or tools. This is where you had to hook up cameras to computers through a maze of equipment, and getting it to work was again an art, not a science like we're doing today, where virtually every laptop comes with built-in video features, cell phones now with video features. You know, this original video conference, though, that I did back then was born of necessity, Dick, as it was for my son's bris, which is commonly referred to as a circumcision, and which was then transmitted on the existing state-of-the-art video computer equipment at the time. And, well, let me tell you, Dick, the video conference took place from California, where I lived, to Florida, where my father lived. And my father even threw a party, inviting his friends over to watch the circumcision in his home in Florida. And prior to the bris, I had to fly out with my engineering group, and we had to build specialized computers, one for my father and one for me in California. And the reason it had to be done was my father had taken ill right before he was supposed to come out to California. So basically we brought the show to him. And let me tell you, Dick, what we transmitted was a horror show. Not because of the gore of the circumcision, but because the video was horrendous. And when it was transmitted, it looked like supergoats. And we did that over the old ISDN lines at about 128. And, you know, it was this big. It was maybe 1-2 frames. And it was horrible. But what came through on that postage stamp screen with only a few frames was still cool and still might have had applications, but I called it herky-jerky kung fu movie type stuff. In fact, in the circumcision, you heard the babies cry about a minute after you saw the cut. But perhaps bad video was actually good video for a circumcision, Dick, where bad quality may actually be the only application where it's better. But for any other use, it was pathetically bad video. And certainly there appeared no marketable or commercial value. And so I began a long and failure-riddled, non-stop workday, basically, with a small group of geeks who were looking to improve low-bandwidth video and imaging applications for the internet. And that lasted until the inventions were discovered. Of course, achieving any of this was already deemed impossible and a waste of time by leading engineers worldwide. If Gates and his team had given up, well, where were me and my 10 guys going to get working out of a breakfast nook in a condominium? But yet I was possessed by the vision, and after endless failures to wit's end, I had my flash of genius, the first flash, And there were several in this process. But the first one was in virtual reality VR imaging. And while I was asleep, the answer came to me as clear as day for how to solve for pixelation. That's what it was commonly known at the time. And it was a problem which was inherent in imaging not only over the web, but on computers. And since computers were developed, there was pixelation when you zoomed, especially on low-resolution images, Dick. And when I awoke from that dream, I awoke my wife and I informed her of the epiphany. She told me basically to go back to sleep and we'd begin working on it in the morning. And when we awoke, that's exactly what we did. So the other inventors in the morning were notified of the new out-of-the-box concept. And while the idea was completely out of the box, we all believed it would work. And we began building the first scaled imaging process. And, we built the first software for low and high bandwidth applications of this digital zoom invention. The invention, Dick, was a mathematical scaling formula for digital zoom, which solved for pixelation. It gave two-dimensional images an unbelievable depth dimension for zooming, even, Dick, on super low-res images that were highly compressed like JPEGs and GIFs. That was prior thought impossible. And basically, my process starts by scaling the image, Dick, to a much larger image than what will eventually be put into the viewing window for the user. And so instead of compressing it and shrinking the image, we increased the size of the image, going completely against the common thinking of the day, which was to compress and make it smaller. We actually blew it up to, a picture that was going to go into your computer screen was really, truly, in the background, the size of the Empire State Building. And to most people, that was so, against the grain that at first it didn't make sense, but when you thought it through, the only really way to get digital zoom was to overscale so that as the user zoomed, it was actually like walking up to the Empire State Building. The closer you get, the better your zoom. But if you start with an image built into the box, it just doesn't work. And Dick, the prior art or the inventions before mine had images being created large enough to fit the viewing window exactly, similar to how a painting's canvas is fitted to the picture frame. So the image was compressed first without overscaling, resulting in poor zoom the minute you tried to zoom, and that's what was referred to as pixelation at the time. And at the time, engineers and scientists were trying to discover improvements in all the wrong directions of compression, and they weren't focused on the clarity of the images and preserving people's art. So, you didn't want your company beautiful picture to go up on the web and looks like some tiny little thing that was grainy. And, it's just that was where it was going to stay until we overscaled. And nobody had thought of making the canvas thousands of times the viewing window. It didn't make sense, but technically it ended up working.
Eliot, right there, we're going to just stop for a minute and take a break. We're going to come right back on Network 125 with Eliot Bernstein. We'll be right back.